the consultant said, "It's okay, Mr. Florence. You can come back, and you can either see my colleague, and he's done 2,000 vasectomies." In other words, he was almost admitting that he made a mistake because he couldn't possibly have healed it for any other reason. Or you can see me, and I'll try a different method, but this time we'll cut off a much bigger gap. And you can't possibly heal from it next time.
Well,
and I said,
because I have a similar experience.
Really?
I had a really similar experience. I had cardiovascular surgery, triple bypass, about 14 weeks ago, and no family history, no blood pressure, all the same, normal. Cholesterol's all absolutely spot on, so it was really unusual, and it came up from going to a normal kind of a routine check. A cat had sort of said, "Have you had a medical recently?" And I said, "No, I haven't." But I was feeling fit, so I thought I'll go because I'll definitely get through it. Yeah. And cut a long story short, basically they discovered that one of my arteries was completely blocked, two others were like 60 or 70% blocked, and so 14 weeks ago I'm off to Bristol to have major open heart surgery.
Wow. And you hadn't noticed anything? You
nothing,
didn't feel different?
I had occasional backache when I would run up the hill. And I thought, well, I'm not spring chicken.
Yeah,
I thought, fine, that's what it is. So no, so it was a bit of a shock. It was on Valentine's Day. I was about to take Cat out for supper. And
it's your fault. You're the one that told him to go from.
So she turns around. Anyway, I get a call from the surgeon. He says, "You've got to get to A&E straight away." Anyway, so I have the operation. Surgeon, I had an out-of-body experience, which is a completely different sort of subject, but really interesting. Highly recommend morphine. It's amazing.
Yes, I've tried similar things.
And
so just as a quick aside, so was the out-of-body, you think, because of the morphine, or do you think
no,
this
it was
was
during
a
the
true
operation? At the end of the operation, I had a thing called bradycardia, which is very slow heart rate because I was fit, and I came out of my body, and I could see them pumping my heart with their hands.
Wow!
And had a spinning sensation, and was very relaxed. It was a very high rotational rate, but I felt absolutely as one with the universe. Extraordinary. And two of my daughters are doctors, and I spoke to them afterwards, and they said, "Well, actually, they had a real problem getting their heart going again."
Really?
So yeah, and I wasn't aware of that when I told them about this thing. So. But anyway, the big thing about the Wim Hof method, or exposure to cold, was that the surgeon afterwards said, "You're really lucky. Your right artery, which was completely blocked, had started revascularizing, which is why it's so similar to your experience." He said it's very rare to see. Normally, it's in elite athletes, which I'm. Just look at me. I'm not an elite athlete, and. My right artery had started forming branches. I mean, the body's incredible, and it started forming branches to feed the heart. And he said it's really rare to see. And so then I told him about the Wim Hof method and exposure to cold. And he said, "Well, that's quite possible because if you're exercising your cardiovascular system the whole time, that's kind of stuff that happens." Yeah. I was extremely lucky it was discovered. I was extremely lucky that I got the operation done, and I was extremely lucky, I think, that I'd got involved in the Wim Hof method 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. Because I'm pretty much certain that's what saved my life. It's not scientifically provable, but I'm going with it. Yeah. And I'm, 14 weeks after, I'm running, I'm cycling again, and I'm taking ice baths again. And I'm sure that's because I went into it reasonably fit.
Yep. But when it comes to stuff like that, and after you've been doing it for a couple of years, I've been doing it for a couple of years, Kat, you've been doing it.
Same time.
Yeah. It's very easy for us all, and anybody else that does the Wim Hof method or something, or just getting used to the cold. I mean, the Wim Hof method is much more than the cold, but it's much easier for us to believe it.
Yeah, it just resonates
to be true,
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just the proof pudding. You know, when you are able to live it yourself, experience it yourself, and really understand where you can take it within yourself. Yeah. That is when it becomes quite exciting.
You have your own examples of Rena's too.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, Wim Hof was pretty much the last thing I wanted to do. I hate the cold.
Do you remember the journey out to Stroh?
On my birthday present, I'd just like to say, was the advanced course, and I swore at Nick all the way out there.
Good for you. Yeah.
And I praised him all the way back.
Oh wow.
Because it really got me out of my comfort zone. I had Raynaud's, I still had it at that point. And
whereabouts? In the extremities?
In my extremities, yeah. And I'd had it since teenager, so a long time. And it was something that I just accepted was part of my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't that worried about it, it's just part of my life. And that's why I hated the cold. I used to really, really feel it. And so we did it, and pretty much 9 months after doing the Wim Hof, the Raynaud's completely went. The redness went, the yellowness went, the pain went.
That's interesting.
And extraordinary.
But did you do the sort of the ice bowl, hands in ice method?
Now that really helped me.
Yeah.
I would do that like twice a week to begin with, and it used to really kill me when I put my hands in. It was just so uncomfortable. And you know, Wim Hof says, just wait 1.5 minutes and then it'll all feel fantastic. And I was like, 3 minutes later, it's not feeling fantastic. Yeah. But I kind of thought, I really want to sort this out, and I'm so freaking interested. So I just kept on doing it, and then, sooner or later it began to change. And actually the cold showers were a big part of that as well. Yeah. It wasn't just the icing the hands and the feet. It was also about the cold showers and getting into that space, being okay with being uncomfortable, and changing that relationship with pain or discomfort to kind of like, okay, let's get into the zone. What happens to me when I'm in the zone? And it's almost like as soon as I became comfortable with discomfort, everything just kicked into where it was supposed to. Everything worked the way it was supposed to.
You're
work.
effectively training your cardiovascular system.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason why it shouldn't.
And the feel-good feelings, as you know, when you get out of the shower, is extraordinary. You wake up thinking, oh my God, today's another day or whatever. And you get in that shower and you're right on it. You come out, you're like,
and if you force yourself as well, especially if you wake up and you're feeling a bit shitty, if you force yourself to do it and commit to it, you then have this psychological change. It's this, you've caused yourself to be disciplined about one thing. And if you're not a disciplined person, that I wasn't previously, I found that by causing yourself to be disciplined about that one thing, of overcoming the fairly understandable thought process of, it's winter, don't have a cold shower, don't be so stupid. Now I do all of my cold showers in the garden, so mine is always, throughout the year, the hose, the garden hose. So some days in the morning in the winter when it's -10, your brain will say, Dave, it's -10, don't be so stupid. But when you get used to talking back to that voice, as I now do in my nutty-like fashion, as I talk to my dog and I do all the weird things, you then find that discipline that you create, because inevitably that voice then just shuts up, because it then thinks, okay, well then in which case, fine, you're obviously enjoying it.
You're teaching your body that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's your that primal part of your brain saying, hang on, what's going on?
Yeah. And you're teaching your mind actually more effectively. And I think everybody has this chimp part of their mind which goes, we don't do that.
Our bodies are designed to heal. I think you figure that out once you do the Wim Hof method. You then realise, okay, there's so much our body can do without pharmaceutical or Western medicine. And I've never knocked, and I never will knock the medical profession. If they do an amazing job, they did an amazing job for you, they did an amazing job for my wife. However, there are certain times when you just don't need them. You can figure this out. Your body can figure it out for itself if you allow it to, because the problem is that we've just put up all these barriers and stopped our body and brain from healing. And the Wim Hof method, I think, is a really good precursor to your believing that, or precursor to thinking that, isn't it? Because it truly shows you can create and almost force or hack your body into acting in a different way that causes it to heal.
We've lost touch with our bodies. So many of us don't know, and we don't listen to the warning signs our body gives us. So we push it until we've gone beyond the boundary, and in which case then we do need the medical profession to help us. And I think what's great about the Wim Hof is like learning to work with your body, not against it, not seeing it as a machine, but something that's here planted on the planet to make us connect and alive and vibrant. And when we listen to what our body needs and tune into that, that's when we can control our health to benefit us.
And I think the medical system, there are some really enlightened doctors out there who are recognising there are other things going on. And that's really healthy. And I think, there are a lot of doctors gone into nutrition or gone into all sorts of preventative medicine, as opposed to, just curing. The problem with modern drugs is that if you take one drug it inevitably has an effect on something else.
Yeah.
So you end up having a cocktail
Yeah.
of drugs to protect against the initial drug that
Yeah.
they did. And you cannot find homeostasis, balance in your body if you do that.
Yep.
It's just not possible.
I think a lot of it, you know, a lot of our ability to live longer, to heal, to be happy is obviously all up here
It's in the
anyway, isn't
head,
it?
yeah.
Let's face it. You
And
talk
it's-
about endurance, and we spoke about this earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
Enduring the cold.
Yeah, it's
That's all up
really
here.
it's really interesting actually, because the Wim Hof method sometimes is if people go into it who are usually athletes who are very physically fit.
It's quite a macho thing.
It's really quite a macho thing, and again, I think I wanted to prove that a very normal, regular person and a woman could be there and do it with the dudes. You know, could be there and hang out with the dudes. And actually, Wim Hof will say himself that women actually will deal with the cold better in the ice endurance part of it, the ice baths, than men will. And there's a good reason for that, and that's because a lot of men are quite competitive and they like to push through, grit through. That's not what the Wim Hof is about. It's about allowing and getting into that present moment, into that single point of focus.
Yeah, and having flexibility.
And having flexibility.
Being
and-
soft, not being hard.
Yeah.
Which is really tough for
But
us.
how,
And I think
but
that's...
how powerful is that?
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it's fantastic.
And I think that's really exciting that anyone can do it.
Have you read
Yeah,
about this
activists-
stuff called hormesis?
Yeah.
And the hormetic approach? I think all of the stuff that we do together creates some level of stress in the body, like whether it be the breathing, where you're
Yep.
holding your breath retention,
Yep.
whether it be exposure to the cold, where you get a shot, you know, effectively you're putting yourself under stress, intermittent fasting, all of those things create this sort of hormetic effect. And the guy who discovered hormesis was a German. He was a pharmacologist, I think, a pharmacist, and he was very much poo-pooed at the time because the pharmaceutical companies were just getting going, and medicine believed that he'd got everything under control.
Yeah.
But he was able to prove that, you know, the hormetic effect exists, and it then came under further scrutiny because the cigarette companies decided to use it in
Right.
the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone then discovered that. But I think hormesis is a really interesting thing. And of course, our primal ancestors would have had stress. They wouldn't have recognized it necessarily as stress, but they would have had these stresses on the body. And I think that's what keeps people
Well,
alive
allows for
longer.
growth, doesn't it? And those studies that you're talking about showed that the plants become stronger, and we become stronger as human beings by testing ourselves and going slightly beyond our comfort zone. If you don't, you find that life begins to go in, and the boundaries come in and in until you're left with a very small operating parameters where, as you're always slightly pushing your body, you're
you're right.
strengthening your body from inside out. Just like you would exercise, you can't get fit unless you exercise. And hormesis, in a way, is the same thing, always just taking yourself to just that little further level, not too far.
So we know that all stress is good. As you say, the intermittent hypoxia from the breath work, that's good in small doses. The cold in small doses is good. And it's because we've got this inner pharmacy that needs those things, else they disappear. I mean, we know that, you know, those in depressed individuals or have other conditions, even probably quite severe psychological conditions, a lot of it is just a depletion of the neurochemicals
Yes,
that
you're
they
absolutely
should
right.
have. And when you think about the breathing, and last night, for example, because of my hay fever, which should be over in a couple of days, I would imagine, last night I knew that I was breathing through my mouth. And because after reading Patrick McEwen's book, The Oxygen Advantage, I've become almost a little bit obsessed about breathing through my nose always. So I'm always sort of just causing this to work harder, which is good. However, when your nose is blocked, it then sends you into a little bit of a frustrated sort of mindset. And I think I must have gotten frustrated last night because I woke up at 3, annoyed at the fact that I'd been breathing through my mouth because I could feel it. And then, this is the interesting thing, I then took myself out of the bed thinking, right, well, that's it, I'm not going to go to sleep. Almost sort of having a go at my brain. Well, that's it, you're not getting any more sleep now. I then got onto the floor, and by the way, I'd already taken myself up to the spare bedroom at this point. I got onto the floor, started doing my yoga, so I do the Tibetan rites yoga routine. Then did one Wim Hof style pranayamic breathing. And immediately after that, after the breath retention, I then, for the first time, I've never experienced this, I then felt so calm and ready to sleep that I then took myself back to bed and fell asleep for a few hours. I'd already, before doing all of that, decided that was it. I'm awake now. It's 3 o'clock, never mind. I'll just do some work in front of the computer. But something else happened that wouldn't normally happen when I do my breath work in the morning. Normally I feel quite alive and ready to kickstart the day. This was different. It's like,
it's interesting. We get a lot of people, you know, who join the Primal Being group or are on, or we're doing Wim Hof Method instructing with, who say, when is it best to do it? Is it best in the morning, best in the evening? Of course, it's, you know, it doesn't matter. But the but it's different. When you do it just prior to going to bed, it'll actually put you to sleep.
See, I've not done that.
But in a more relaxed way, I find, like when I teach people about doing it at night time, you don't do it for long, so just do 20 breaths, and then just to hold lightly, and not for it to be as active as you would normally do it. And then that just calms the mind. The rhythm of the breath, the focus on the breath, just calms the body and the mind down. And then it just kind of stops. It is, you know, we talk about reset a lot, I think, in Wim Hof and in other breath techniques and the cold, and I think it does. It just resets you back to what your body needs.
But it takes you back to what you were saying earlier, experimentation. There's no set way to do it. Wim Hof's very funny about it. People ask him, should they breathe through the mouth or nose? He says, any hole will do. And he means it. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
Like, he wants you to
if you can close all close, find something else. Exactly.
Exactly, It's about getting it done and finding what works for you.
And discovering yourself. Your natural self.
Or rediscovering, because we all have this knowledge inside us. We all have the primal being inside us. It's just rediscovering old knowledge.
Thanks for the coffee.
Not at all.